making a DC game. Let's fucking go. Thanks everybody, and peace out. Welcome to DC, a League of DC show, and I'm your host, Teladia Blaze, and we are joined by my co-host, Jay to the Heat, that is Jay Heat 75.
What's up?
Guys, we got a lot to cover, so let's kick things off, shall we? We'll be joined soon by by a guest, the Batman. He'll be joining us pretty soon. But let's kick things off with Henry Cavill's Superman, no longer in the DCU. What
I
thoughts?
I hate
Let's kick it.
I hate it because you spent months on end rebuilding a lot of goodwill for the fans and even general audiences alike, like Henry Cavill Superman. Now
Yeah,
there are a few diehards who prefer like how the DCAU and that approach, and yes, it was good for what it was, but the Snyderverse wasn't all doom and gloom. It was it was more modern than anything. Because let's be honest, in a realistic world, based based on the here and now, you wouldn't have the same sensibilities. You wouldn't trust Superman as easily. So a lot of that was now. Did they end up going too far with it? Of course, they did not need to debut Batman strictly for Dark Knight Returns, and that was just a marketing ploy for Batman versus Superman. So they did end up screwing up in a lot of ways. But I hate we lost Henry Cavill. I hate he got fired the way he did. But we will talk about the more analytics and the business side of things later in the show. But I want to use
yeah,
this first topic to focus more so on the injustice of it all and how Henry Cavill, The Rock, and their talent agency fought for over 5 years to get Superman back in DC, only to all be for naught. I don't know. We just got a lot of ground to cover, and it's just major
it,
whiplash.
it's it's pretty much like what sums it up. Like Jay Heat said, we fought for 5 to 6 years to get Henry Cavill back on the big screen. Not only from the fans, but also like the Rockstar agency, Seven Bucks Productions, to Danny Garcia and Haim Garcia. All three of them literally fought with Warner Brothers to get Henry Cavill back on the big screen for Superman, and it was crazy. And Tevia says hi. Yeah, Tevia, welcome. I'm so sad Henry Cavill is not returning as Superman. I think there's a lot of us that are very sad that Henry Cavill isn't going to be around in
And what's
the.
worse, you led the fans on for months on end. Like,
Yeah,
I get it, it's semantics, and you're trying to cater to the general audience. But there's a very fine line between establishing a brand and actually maintaining it. But we'll go into more detail on that later in the show.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And what's fun thing is what's the sad thing about this all? This literally happens a month after Black Adam or 2 months before after Black Adam was released.
Yep, yep.
Literally. And Cavill had signed a contract. He had a contract with Warner Brothers, and he did interviews. Uh, he he straight up said that he was Superman. Now, now he's not. And I'm telling you guys, I know. Even though I'm a Superman fan, I know that there's going to be tons of Superman fans out there that aren't going to watch the next Superman film because it's not Henry Cavill. Yeah, it was all for nothing, as Tevia says. Pretty much, yeah, it was all for nothing. And, you know, um, it's kind of a sad time, for not only for the Henry Cavill Superman, but for the Snyderverse as well, because this literally states Henry Henry Cavill's universe so to say, is done and dusted, and there's nothing that we can do to reignite it. It's not going to be like how we campaigned for several years just to get the Snyder cut, so to say. It's not going to be
Yep.
like that, and it's going to be pretty hard for us to even get that again. Pretty hard. I mean, we
I do.
fought.
I,
Go on.
go ahead.
No, you
Oh,
go
I
first.
will. I will say this much. This is a separate situation from what we had with Hamada and Sarnoff, excuse me, where you just
Yes,
had a bunch
Frank.
of clashing clown table, where basically you just had a bunch of clashing egos, and they just didn't really like, and ultimately they just didn't like Henry Cavill, and they threw Snyder under the bus, and pretty much everything that happened the past 5 years. But whereas this situation is more business based, where the Snyderverse was essentially in flux. It was very divisive between the fans and general audiences. And you could play the Marvel card and say they want to do MCU numbers, but you got to build to that, whether it be from a fan base perspective or a financial perspective. You got to build to that. And I feel like, especially to dig out of the debt Discovery ended up in after getting finessed by the previous administration economically, this reboot was their best play business wise. I hate
Oh,
it,
and
but I understand it.
hate to interrupt you, but we have the one and only the Batman. Welcome, the Batman. Welcome on in.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So, what are your thoughts of today, Henry Cavill's Superman?
It's just insane. I'm tired of WB really just constantly. I feel bad for Henry, first of all, because that's just horrible. He
Yeah.
literally had to come back and say, leave The Witcher to come back for Superman, and said, "Oh, I'm Superman. I'm back. Thank you guys for fighting for me. I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm back now." And then, well, because of what happened with Black Adam, that determines them trying to be like, oh, well, this is not what I want to do. So, since I'm in charge of DC now, I'm going to change it and just kick Henry Cavill out and then go from there.
It was
And it's just
it was Black Adam really that
inexcusable.
bad? Oh, I had to cut you off, Batman. And is Black Adam really that bad? I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think
No, I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so
Black
I
either.
Adam was
enjoyed
that
the
bad.
movie. It
Yeah.
had its
First
problems,
time
but
I
I
enjoyed a
enjoyed.
DC movie in a minute. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go on.
Hello?
No, don't worry. He's probably in the car. Um,
Oh, okay.
Frank says at this point WBD needs to sell off DC. Fans have no trust in WBD. At
Now
this point, yeah,
that would be I get where you're coming from, Frank, but business wise that would be a mistake. That really would be a mistake because a lot of their staple and a lot of DC's foundation is in Warner Brothers. So it would really treat the characters we love for the worse if you sold them off. But I see where you're coming from.
yeah,
As do I. But as you can see, um, the stocks are dropping for both AT&T and Warner Brothers. So this did
Definitely.
not end like they thought it was going to be.
yeah.
Simple thing
The, the,
didn't
the,
happen.
their stock dropped big time. AT&T and Warner Brothers Discovery, which we'll talk about, how much of a big impact that would be. Douglas, welcome on in. Welcome on in. So, that is a lot, that Henry Cavill to take in. Henry Cavill leaving the role to to not
But
only
how
that,
extensive is this reboot? Are they just replacing Superman or are they just recasting everyone?
we can
According to the reports, they were casting all of the Justice League cast members,
yeah,
basically.
recasting everybody, basically everybody within the Justice League, yeah. But
Everything
yeah,
else they're keeping.
yeah, which doesn't make any sense. In my eyes, it doesn't make any sense for them to recast Henry Cavill's Superman because he only had he only had one film. So it's like, what can they, and one solo film, I should say, to mention, and it's really sad. And they were gonna go down this path to make a hopeful Superman film. And Charles Roven was gonna make the next Superman film as a producer. And that's not happening now either. So that's a big letdown for me personally. This is the biggest L I think for David Zaslav since he took charge.
I agree.
And I agree. This is definitely going to blow up in his face. But even so, I'm going to play devil's advocate and say Zaslav made the best out of a bad situation, purely because of the debt Warner Brothers Discovery is in. The stocks will later go to in a later topic, as well as the fact that you have such a divisive fan base. Everyone was split off because of what the previous administration did, and a clean slate would be more beneficial than just restructuring and causing more strife, because you have the general audience versus the fans, and it's just so much back and forth. And yes, Tevia, the Taishi Coates movie is still in production. Whether it's going to
Yeah.
be a standalone or whether it's going to tie into this new universe, I don't know. But as of now, Taishi Coates' Superman is still in production.
Why though? It doesn't make. Why do that film? You know it's gonna
You might
piss
as well
off.
just make an icon movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And while we're on the subject of James Gunn, why do we talk about him? James Gunn. Now his tweet saying he had meetings with Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck, right? And
Right.
talked about them, potentially like he didn't want to go further with their roles, but he can see them doing work with them in the future, especially with Ben Affleck doing a project for them in the
Yeah.
director's role and Henry Cavill working with them in the future. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I could definitely see like an Elseworld or standalone where Henry Cavill comes back. Maybe that Kingdom Come adaptation James Gunn was talking about. But this was definitely a blunder for him. And I'm just like, I get it from a bit. If you actually explain the context, it's easy to get it from a business standpoint. But that was not from marketing, from internet reporting. It's just James Gunn, not a good look. Not a good look. That's all. That's all I can really say without going into too much detail.
Yeah,
I mean, I've
and
seen videos on YouTube. People are just angry. A lot of them are casual moviegoers. They're just like, I just cannot believe that Henry Cavill is no longer Superman and possibly Gal Gadot no longer Wonder Woman. It's
Oh,
like
people are definitely pissed
insane.
off about Gal Gadot not being Wonder Woman anymore. People are livid.
livid about that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people livid about Cavill, livid about Gal, livid about Ben Affleck. So
I think the
Douglas
only one.
says
Oh, go ahead.
Douglas says after the Raiders screwed Cavill, I don't really see him wanting to go back after all. No, I do. I don't see him going back either. This is
I agree.
literally this is literally them fucking him over and saying, "Fuck you. We're not gonna use you again."
I still say Jason
Yeah, I wouldn't
Momoa is
come
going to.
back either.
No, definitely not. But I would say Jason Momoa is going to stay purely because he makes a solid choice for Lobo. So Jason Momoa might stay, but
Mhm.
so he could be Lobo. But that's the only person I really see staying.
And you know, it kind of sucks that he's recasting the whole Justice League members, and that means the Snyderverse is no longer going to go ahead. It's and PK says this is the story about how the bad guy won.
Pretty much,
Pretty
PK.
much, yeah,
Hmm.
yes, PK. Pretty much this is how the bad guy won.
But I did see a lot on social media how the Snyderverse was dark, was gritty, it was edgy, and it just wasn't really going to go anywhere. And I'm just like, no, it was very, to an extent, it was darker, but it was more realistic compared to a modern setting. Because look, a lot of the DCAU in comic book form, a lot of those storylines were based on late Golden Age, early Silver Age, with the exception of Batman, which you could argue was relatively recent as those shows were coming out.
Yeah,
Those were still classic storylines. Compare the DCAU to what they're putting out now in the comics. It's like the Lost Ark in Indiana Jones. Like, come on. So that's not even a fair comparison. And not to
But
mention, oh, go
but
ahead,
why?
Ted. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, why do it? Why recast knowing that you're gonna get backlash? Big backlash for that
But
matter.
not only that, you just torpedoed the entire 2023 slate of movies.
Yeah,
Now
you
nobody will
literally
support him.
now
Totally blew
nobody.
that up.
I agree that was a bad decision. I would not refute that. That was a very bad decision. But I feel like Zaslav is taking the heat now so he can rebuild later because he'll have a clean slate, he'll have a new universe, and he won't have the baggage from Sarnoff and Hamada.
No, but at the same time, you're kind of saying to yourself, okay, well, we're getting recasting everybody, and the whole DC film slate then from 2023 onward don't make any sense. Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom wouldn't make any sense. The Flash wouldn't make any sense. Because Henry Cavill was paid 250K for both Black Adam and The Flash. So it doesn't make any sense for them to do that those 2023 films. And Shazam: Fury of the Gods. I don't know if you saw that tweet. I think you sent me that tweet, wasn't it? The Batman, where Zachary Levi retweeted something in regards to some stuff.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Uh. So Tevia says this is basically a lose-lose situation. Yes.
Pretty much. Pretty
Pretty
much.
much. Douglas says the dark and gritty is the only thing keeping DC afloat. All all their movies since BVS have been cheesy, throwaway comedies that did not work at all. Agreed?
84.
Oh, 84, yeah, for
You know
sure.
what's funny about that? They want to sit complain about it being dark and gritty, but then these are the same people for the most part that love the Batman so dang much, and that's way darker than anything that Zach did
Pretty
thus
much.
far,
I
for
agree.
the most part.
I agree.
Yeah, and PK says all the DC films coming out next year will officially be a waste of time now. Yeah, pretty much. All those films that were coming out next year would be for nothing. Blue Beetle. Um,
Well, Blue Beetle, you just have to take out a few Easter eggs. Blue Beetle is salvageable.
well, what about the Flash?
Oh, that's dead in the water. I think with the Ezra controversy alone, that's dead in the water. They just got to put it out in order to establish the rebooted universe. And it was so far in post production before Ezra Miller lost his goddamn mind.
And
Oh,
and
there.
And
Shaz-
they may
Got
have a leg up, a small leg up, because Michael Keaton's in it and Ben Affleck is in it. And since we all know now for sure that it's all going nowhere, that may be it a little bit, but we won't.
They'll definitely get
I
some
know that.
hype. They'll definitely get some hype. Excuse me. Sorry, Batman. I hate to cut you off. They're definitely going to get some hype off it. I agree.
but it just mind boggles me that why mind boggles me to do this reboot. You just cancelled out 2024, 2023 films, literally for nothing. So then you can get even more fans to hate on you. So all the people that hated the Snyderverse will hate you now for getting rid of Henry Cavill's Superman and recasting all these actors that were fit perfectly for their roles. So you know, that's what we gotta say. So let's talk about the DC full reboot now, the full DC reboot, because that's the next big thing. Uh, and that is ha- all the cast members rebooted for younger actors. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Batman, you first. I cut you off before.
Uh, I don't even really know. It's like I'm kind of over the whole we're going backwards thing. So it's like, okay, well, Batman didn't work this time. Let's do a younger Batman. Well, Superman didn't work this time. Let's see if we can age him down. It's like, can we just stick on one thing and that's it? Instead of just constantly going backwards. Well, it won't be an origin story. It doesn't matter if it's not. We've already seen a young Superman. We've seen a young Batman over and over again. Give us something different. That's the one thing I really appreciate Zach the most. He gave us something different. It may not have been everybody's cup of tea at first, but it was still something unique and different than we have seen before.
I agree.
I
I agree.
100%, I agree with you 110%. Jay Heat, your
And
thought?
I feel the same way as the Batman, because even if you did retool the Snyderverse, there really wasn't that much you need to fix. Explain Batman's nihilism, the death of Robin, change it from Dick Grayson to Jason Todd, and just a few minor tweaks. You really didn't have to change that much, except maybe Black Adam with the JSA, but that's about the most you had to do.
But that's a
Yeah.
simple time thing.
So, but for me personally, it just didn't make any sense for them just to reboot anything. Honestly, um, I don't see why rebooting Superman. I mean, yeah, you got a younger Batman in Robert Pattinson. You might as well just connect that up then. At that point,
Bat,
if you,
I think that's what they're going to
That's
plan to do. That's very
that's what
likely.
they're trying to do. They're trying to do that, but Matt Reeves is like, no.
Matt Reeves specifically wanted his Batman to be a standalone. Specifically, he specifically
yeah,
wanted that.
and now that they're trying to, I'm just like
Reeves might play ball, or they might get a new Batman actor altogether. I don't know, but I would not be surprised if Matt Reeves ended up playing ball.
Matt
Oh,
Reeves. Matt Reeves had not so adamant about staying disconnected to his movies.
His movies could have been Affleck prequels, definitely.
Definitely, yeah.
exactly. But I have a feeling he might play ball because it's either you play ball or you don't have another Batman film. And I think for him, he wants to continue for a little while longer. But my thing is, Pattinson doesn't even fit. Regardless of what Superman you have, that universe truly is separate. I mean, they took care of that without all the behind the scenes pictures that we saw early in production, where they had
Mm.
Superman and Wonder Woman in costume, but they cut that out. They had Lex Luthor mentioned in a newspaper, they cut that out, you know? So, and then the way it's shot, it doesn't really fit with anything supernatural or,
It doesn't.
to what we're used to.
It doesn't. Well, it's crazy, and if they go down that route to have Robert Pattinson's Batman be a part of this new DCU, even though James Gunn is saying no, and we're gonna get some come from clarification, like what is coming out the slate for 2024, because we know 2023 is a dud. We know that now,
Pretty
right?
much.
Pretty much, right? Um, it's like, is it even worth for people to go to the cinemas now and fully put their money's worth in for these films? And I don't think it is. I really don't,
I don't either.
because people have been fighting for Henry Cavill's Superman for years. People have been fighting for the Snyderverse for years. People have been demanding for dark and gritty movies like the Snyderverse has done, and you're backpedaling to give us a Marvel carbon copy, so to
Pretty
say,
much.
an MCU carbon copy, and nobody
Which is
wants that,
not going to work.
which isn't gonna work.
You tried
Once,
copying Marvel the first time. You really think it's going to work twice?
no,
But it's not even that. Everybody's getting superhero fatigue because Marvel's the same formula. It may have changed a little bit in Phase 4, which was a crapshoot, but it's getting old. So people want that dark and gritty to try to balance out all the good and happy-go-lucky, jokey
Oh, the court.
of the MCU. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Douglas says don't know how they're gonna be able to afford to make new films, new movies if all ones next year are duds.
It's going to be really hard to bounce back from this. It really
It
is.
really is. It really is, because like these films were supposed to set up 2024 Man of Steel 2. It was supposed to set up whatever they had planned up after Man of Steel 2, the Wonder Woman 3 film. Now that isn't happening, and it's crazy that all of this is happening in one day. This all happened within 24 hours. Because I remember that Sil Abdul was like saying, oh, he thought Cavill was safe and because of all the situation, but I guess not.
Now, this is very unlikely, but it has happened in the past, where you have essentially quote unquote troll campaigns where they end up going one direction, and then when we get close to the movies or get close to the premiere of said movie, it's this big switcher up, and it just this grand spectacle for everyone in the audience, and it just creates word of mouth. No Way Home did something similar with bringing Maguire and Andrew Garfield back, but I don't
Yeah,
think they're going to pull that here. And even if they
No, because
did
they
try
fired
it,
Cavill. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
even if they were willing to do that, the damage is already done. I don't think anyone's going to fall for that twice. That's all I was going to say. But it
yeah,
has happened where they essentially make a false statement on internet articles and get headlines out, and then they end up going a completely different direction by the movie's release. It's unlikely at this point, but it has happened in the past.
it's uh, it's all like all crazy. Like I'm seeing it on Twitter right now. Everyone like saying, I'll say this to you guys: support Black Adam, purchase Black Adam on digital if you guys can. Because the more support you show James Gunn and David Zaslav, look, hey, we wanted this universe, not this universe. Then, or sorry, the rebooted universe. Then Zaslav will have to go back on what he's done previously.
Maybe, maybe. But let's be a little optimistic about this reboot. We can talk about corporate incompetence all day, but
Yeah.
let's be a little optimistic here. What would you guys want to see out of the reboot?
Well, I want to see something which isn't MCU based. Something which isn't going to be like really, really like how to explain it.
An MCU
Something,
knockoff?
yeah, MCU knockoff. That's the best way to say. It. Yeah, something which is an MCU knockoff, and like what I also want is I don't want to see a Batman film where it's emo Batman, so to say, a Batman where he doesn't know how to solve a riddle. I don't want that.
To be fair, that film was based on Long Halloween and in his early days. So again, that specific story isn't everyone's cup of tea, because you would expect Batman as a detective when he's already established. You don't really expect the Long Halloween out of all stories right out of the gate, much like you
Yeah,
wouldn't expect the Dark Knight right out of the gate.
yeah,
So I can understand that. Batman, your thoughts?
Uh, for me, it's just I'm trying.
you're
For
trying to
me,
get your
it's
head
just
around it.
simple. Yeah, it's just for instance, it's like it's just difficult to imagine that this is what's happened. This is what's come of what we've done for so long and doesn't come to fruition. We are almost there and it's not. And it's just I don't. I mean, Robert Pattinson. No offense to him, it's just he's not Batman to me. I mean, yes, he did the detectives, work and everything, but he still couldn't solve a riddle. He still couldn't. Apparently, he doesn't know how to speak Spanish, which is odd. And then he has no prior training, really. I mean, nothing with the illegal assassins, nothing that we know of.
I would
All he
argue.
does is
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I would argue Pattinson would have made a like a late post adolescent Robin or early Nightwing. I would argue that if you really want to go off the pretty boy factor,
Or
I
Terry
would definitely,
McGinnis.
but I would not have seen Pattinson as Batman. Not that wouldn't have been my first choice.
Mm, definitely, definitely. But let's talk about WBD and AT&T stocks down.
Which pretty much boils down to how we even ended up in this situation,
Yeah,
because we can be passionate about what our favorite IPs and brands all we want, but if it's not profitable to justify it, it's not going to continue. Young Justice is a perfect example.
yes,
It did get a revival, but in terms of views and subscribers, it just didn't do the numbers the higher ups wanted. I'm sorry, Tevia, but it needed to be said.
definitely.
And
Yeah.
and
Go on.
WB and AT&T have taken a massive hit the past year and a half.
No, Tevia, AT&T.
AT&T Discovery just went through and became Warner Brothers Discovery, so that's not even a factor right now. But I will say this: AT&T, they did They did a few good things here and there when they owned Warner Brothers and became Warner
Yeah.
Media, the Snyder Cut especially. But in terms of but if you're gonna
Okay.
play numbers, it didn't really help their situation at all. It really dragged them down financially. And that's just how. Am I lagging right now? Hello?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. And to make it long story short, because I didn't want to turn this into an economics class. To make it a long story short, basically they're just trying to get as much money as possible. I don't know if they're still trying to chase MCU numbers, which even now is even a lower standard because Phase 4 was, as the Batman referred to, a crapshoot. But they're definitely going to try to hit that plateau. So I hate this reboot. I dread what it is right now because I could easily just it's just them copying Marvel like they did the first time, trying to catch up to Marvel, and then we just end up in the same vicious cycle. At least with the Snyderverse, you had something different. It wasn't everyone's it wasn't everyone's taste, but at least you had something unique.
Yeah, for sure. The Batman, your thoughts on WBD and AT&T stocks down?
They got a lot of work to do. That's all I can say. Because what I've seen today is it's still falling, even right now. And they got to earn a lot of people's trust back. Because right now, even though they tried not to divide the fan base further, in my opinion, they pretty much destroyed DC. Because now people just are like, we're done. And I see it so many messages and between myself and other people, and I'm like, I'm just done. I don't care anymore. So when you got a DC fan base that's really that fractured to where they're just done, I don't know what more you can do. It's just sell it. In reality, get ready to sell.
Mm-hmm. That's the only way
Maybe
you can.
maybe somebody else will treat them better. That's
Correct.
That's the only way it'll work. And but Tevye is saying, but Discovery bought WB from AT&T away from AT&T.
in order
Yeah.
for stocks to really be calculated, you have to have that certain acquisition for at least a year. Discovery merger occurred like a few months back. They don't have a full year on their slate yet.
That's why we're saying AT&T and WBD as separate stocks, and why both of them are down. Like one of them is, let me double check because I can't remember what you sent me. Um, the Batman. I can't remember what you sent me. Alright, so WBD's stocks went down by, first it went down by 4.69%, then it went down by 5.34%, and then AT&T's percent went down by 2.14%, which is drastic drop.
I just want to share this with you guys right quick. This was someone's thread on Twitter for potential fan casting.
Go on.
Hold on, let me just pull it up right quick.
God, that's confusing. Yeah. Let me add this to the stream.
First, we got David Consworth as Superman. A little
Yeah.
forced, but if you wanted a younger Superman, I could see it. So this is a solid pick right here. He's better as Red Hood, but I could also see him as Batman. So,
But he is already playing Batman though in the animated universe, so
yeah, if it weren't for the Tomorrowverse, I would definitely see that. But that was a good choice by Shadow Knight. That was a good choice. See, Jamie Alexander, Lady Sif, good Wonder Woman. Okay. Trevante Rhodes as Jon Stewart. I could see that. Wait a minute. Hold on.
not the stream, the AT&T stock situation. No, Tavia, the AT&T stocks went down. So
I could see Lucas. I could see Lucas Till more so Wally's Flash than Barry, but to each their own. Ugh. Liam Hemsworth as Aquaman?
No,
Ugh. No.
he's already playing The Witcher, so he wouldn't have time to play Aquaman.
John Boyega as Cyborg.
Now that I can see John Boyega. Even though
Definitely.
we want,
Batman, what do you think?
Yeah, I would see John Boyega as Cyborg. That'd be perfect. And Jason Ackles is a good choice. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Oh, okay. Isa Gonzalez as Hot Woman. Oh, so this is a mix of the New 52 and DCAU roster. Okay.
I could see that.
Definitely. Definitely Isa Gonzalez. Definitely. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but I have seen his work in the past, so he can pull it off. He can pull it off. Is that the last one? Oh, now we're going to the responses. That's the last one. Don't like that cowl though.
Scott Adkins says for Batman. That's what for Douglas says.
Scott Adkins. Hold on, where have I seen Scott Adkins? Okay, Accident Man, Undisputed. I see where you're coming from, but I wouldn't see him as Batman specifically. I can see him as any other street hero than Batman. I guess it's just me at the moment.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, but Scott Adkins, yeah, I can, yeah.
Tevia says, "What about a natural red-headed Wally West?"
Ginger side.
It has to be, comic book accurate. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go something reboot, it has to be comic book accurate. Ted
And
Grant.
He can pull it off.
Mm.
He can pull it off.
But if any of you guys do want to join in on the panel, I am making it an open panel now, guys, because with the first 37 minutes, I wanted to give us the panelists us the opportunity for us to say what we wanted to say about today's, well, yes, last night over to today's situation. Now it's your time to hop on. Tevia, this means you as well. Where we can talk about today's thing. Try and be as reasonable as you can, and we'll get you on for a good 5-10 minutes each.
All right, I'm setting the timer now for 10 minutes.
So we just while we wait for them, we'll talk about comics because you wanted to talk about the comics solicitations.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and screen that right quick. I'm not going to show all of them, just a few,
That's
because
fine.
this is a really long article, and I'll also leave it in the chat if anyone wants to look it up for themselves.
And we got our first guest, Tevia.
Hello.
You got 10 minutes starts now.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Anything you want to talk about?
Anything that we talked about today?
Yeah. I found my fun Hankerville news. I'm sad. What the fuck? Like, we just gone better than we get. Why? Like, all for nothing. Great. Fucking wonderful. What about back at him? What was the point? Guys?
Yeah, what was the point?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah, like, what was the point? I don't get. Oh, 1 minute more. I'm for that. But 1 minute more is 1 to 23.
I don't understand why even cancel off Henry Cavill in the first place.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and you know,
Like
I
all
s-
for nothing.
yeah, all for nothing, and then
Yeah.
furthermore, it's even worse that hold on, we got somebody else. We got two Batman here.
Wait, why did two?
The
Just
double bat,
we
two
got
Batman.
we got two
Oh,
Batman.
My
So
phone.
confusing.
I'll be right there.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm just scrolling through so that way at least fans, people in the chat have at least a taste of what's coming next year in the comics.
yeah, we have
Hopefully-
Lion coming out. Sorry.
Go ahead, Tevye.
Yeah,
ahead.
we got Lion coming out, which is interesting. Granted, after Dark Crisis, I need a break for events, but this
Yeah.
didn't spin out a video of Batman vs. Robin. So that can go all the way to the truth. But the thing that I'm more into is the okay. This is kind of the Vintage John Kemp book. So you never hate my channel, you know I'm not even out to John. I hate it that crap.
Well, they're not gonna do a Super Sons film or uh, a John Kent situation anymore. That's gone out the window now, Tevye.
No, not in the movie. I know, but here's the thing about it. As I said before, the Battle Superman got nominated I think, for best little score.
Okay.
For
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. But yeah, I don't really see John getting de-aged, not given everything Tom Taylor has done. But if not that, he's definitely going to get shelved for a while because that IP has been damaged as of late. The Super Sons movie has given him a pick me up, but given everything Tom Taylor has done and how he wasted a year and a half for a very slow, mundane.
Yeah.
What's the most appropriate way I could say this?
Boring story. I mean, no sense. And it's stupid. And it's forced and rushed.
Thank you, Tevye.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. So
But hey, maybe his 6-issue mini will actually have some action in it. Hopefully.
Something like that. But then again, to be fair, we're doing Ultraman, so playing Ultraman turning Kal-El like Superman.
is that all the comics, Jay? Or pretty much that's it?
No,
Oh,
I
I'm
think
just-
there's more. That's the Live Planetine.
Oh, I'm still
Okay.
on the Lazarus Planet tie-ins?
Yeah.
Yep.
My God, how far did this go?
I think
Go-
it's been going out the end of March.
So this goes all the way up to March. So
Okay.
Maybe. I could be wrong about that.
Come on, there's got to be at least a couple of her comics out. All of the solicitations? Monkey Prince?
No, not all of them. There's some that did not Live Planetine.
But-
Flash is not Live Planetine, which
I've s-
that's good.
by the way, we might be joined by Batman Thoughts. Just so you guys know that now. He
Yeah.
might join us 50-50. I've sent him a link. So
Cool.
in case he wants to join in and talk
Yeah,
about
but
today.
the other thing, Battle Superman got nominated for STL award. You probably what is STL award? STL award for what kind of the Oscars, but I don't know the Oscar. I think they're more like for soundtrack. And I'm sorry we get nominated for STL award. Why? If they prove that DC made a mistake and this thing wins, maybe just maybe I may make a sequel. I hope.
It might get a sequel, but here's why I say it's unlikely because you already got the twins from War World, as you can see right here, Osula and I forget the other's name off the top of my head.
I think.
Oh, okay, thank you. But they're pretty much going to be the new kids to actually replace John in that dynamic. Whether John actually gets shelved, I don't know, but it's very likely given everything that's happened.
Which just isn't fair. Good.
Batman, are you the biggest fan of comics? Batman, can you hear me?
Batman. Yoo-hoo.
Batman can hear us.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
hear
we
you
can
now.
hear you now. We can hear you now.
You hear me
Yeah,
now?
are you a big fan? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Are you a
am.
big fan of the comics or no?
Or your cat.
Oh yeah, my mom got me started when I was like
5. So she's
Well,
a big
we're
comic
talking
book
about
fan
comics.
too. So I'm
Yeah.
real versed.
Yeah, like with Adam, it's just not fair because you had a gold mine that's sitting out there, and the fact that they were giving it is crazy. It's like, ugh.
And
Damn.
by the way, PK, we are getting people in. So if you want to partake, the link is in the chat. You just gotta scroll up a bit. I have put it in the chat. Where is it?
But I will say this: DC Comics is still doing better than what Marvel is doing right now. Because what Marvel,
Marvel, DC hasn't goodbye. We just is good. That's fucking great. Flashpoint Meeting, my favorite 2022. Action Comic, when the best book I read at the decade, next to Tomasi, next to Dan Jurgens. Before
it's not.
yeah.
I will admit, Rebirth was a better initiative. I will admit that. But you got to admit, with all the Super Son of Kal-El stuff going on, the World War Saga was a great storyline.
Yeah.
And it kept Action Comics afloat. Even you got to admit that.
Yeah, I agree. I love World Saga is my favorite book that came out this year next to the World Finest. And it was the only Superman book I was reading. So that girl broke me with a mug because what the fuck have you done? This ain't John. This is still I'm sitting there with a terrible character. Like, don't pull my hair out without having my boy. Like, come take her to dear John McEnroe. It was an easy fix. But for some reason, if you don't triple down on the bad retcon that Bendis did, they won't undo it. Why? I don't get it. Like, I just don't understand. Like, by now, he got AW years ago, and then he got DAs. Why can't he get the DAs?
Bendis.
Okay. Tevia, you've got like 5 minutes, and then
You got 5 minutes left, Bendis.
Oh, crap.
But yeah, it's a bad situation because Bendis definitely left the character in limbo, and they just wanted to get some cheap headlines off him. They didn't really do nothing else with John. If they just shelved John outright and then he just appeared again in Dark Crisis, the character would be going through a completely different situation.
Yeah, but
okay, PK is joining us.
Class 791. Yeah, I love Jim.
5 minutes.
Do love basically Wild West. Check the book out. It's one of the books that came out this year. So we actually wrote this movie. He wrote the movie. It's amazing. Right.
How you doing, PK?
How you doing, PK? Welcome on board.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on today, PK? And what did you think about what we discussed?
I think I already said this is how the bad guys won.
And we got my good buddy Batdan Thoughts.
Hello.
Welcome, Batdan.
Oh, hello.
Yep.
Yeah, crazy day today. Crazy day.
May not be Batman much longer anymore. I'm just not excited for DC anymore. Like, my excitement for DC died yesterday.
Yeah,
it
was just woke up to a bunch of bad news.
Yeah,
I've been waking up to a lot of bad
David
news
Zaslav.
this entire week.
You know, David
Zaslav's a clown, plain and simple.
Dave says Superman movie that James Gunn is writing sounds awful. We don't want a young Superman movie. We need a Superman throwing down with Brainiac, Darkseid, Metallo, Parasite, etc. I fully agree with you there.
It's pretty kind of ridiculous that in Superman's life it's supposed to be as a kind of 10th post or a miles on where he is in his life. It's basically pretty much so far. It's that young Superman, and by that they mean they want to go back to the love triangle, Superman, Lois Lane, Clark Kent stuff. More than likely, if it's an older Superman, it's the Superman who's already married with Lois Lane, or if Jared was here, then he would have probably said that or Lois has passed away and he's on the way.
Jared would have thrown super wonder jokes left and right, definitely.
Yeah. Jared
and I would argue, I would argue
No,
that
that's all good. By the way, Batman wants to have his final thoughts before he has to run some errands. So let him get his stuff in. So Batman, final thoughts before I let you get on with the rest of your day.
Yeah, for having me on. Well, let's see. I'm functioning on an hour's sleep right now because I had really bad insomnia from the news last night. I think that Zaslav needs to really rethink what he's doing, and if he wants to protect the brand like he so desperately preaches, he needs to take action now. There's no time to wait. He said he would restore relationships, and he failed at that. He said he would protect the brand, and failed at that. You do not give fans something they want, and then 5 weeks later say, nope, just kidding. That is not good business, plain and simple. There is no excuse for that. Zaslav needs to fire Gunn, and if Zaslav really thinks that what he did was right, maybe he should go too. Plain and simple. Zaslav, you're a loser. Fuck you. Thanks for having me on. Have a great day.
All right, see you, Batman.
Now, where was I? Oh, yes. I would argue Super Wonder is relatively toxic because look at Injustice. Look, there's a lot of storylines where Super Wonder either has a drastic impact on the world or goes completely off the rails. Injustice is a perfect example. Now, there are some
I
good
have covered Injustice.
Yeah, and how
most of the first year and the first game. My Injustice series is currently on a hiatus because I'm supposed to do the second comic series, and it's so unfucking believably long that I don't know what am I supposed to cover and what am I supposed to cut out because
it's a long book series.
Yeah, but years 1 to 5 I have covered them and the first game. And I talked about Wonder Woman also there in that series. The series.
Agreed, Dave.
It wasn't very good, and I pressure there that it's one of the worst versions who makes the other bad versions look good.
Yeah, it was definitely just an edgy. Hold on, I'm going through some lag right now. It's definitely an edgy, immature game that just happened to have taken off. Because look at Batman, for example. Even if you did factor the toxicity that is Bruce and Talia, even if we did factor the accidental death of Dick Grayson, who broke his neck on a stone of all things.
And the movie even made it look even worse because they made it so that the Eskrima that hit him in the neck killed him.
Yes.
Yes. And I will
go on. And
I will say this about Injustice. Damian Wayne gets a bad rap. Yes, he's a pain in the ass. He's annoying. He does get a bad rap.
But we don't.
That's
we
not
don't
even
need,
it.
But we don't need Damian Wayne in the movies. That's something we're gonna say right now. We don't need Damian Wayne.
I agree.
In the movie.
That's not even the worst part about that, because Injustice is basically the first piece of media that introduced Damian to other people outside of the comics. And that was basically on purpose bad first impression.
Pretty much. And he's still struggling to get out of that. And I'm just like, even if you factor that in with the tie-in comics, he's a kid who was ostracized, desensitized, born and bred to kill, and abandoned his father outright disowned and abandoned him over favoritism in what is essentially a tragic accident. Now, should he?
That actually is now that you mentioned it. I remembered how I covered this part in the year 3 video of when I covered it. There was the scene where the ghost of Dick Grayson in a Billy Batson's body. He essentially told Bruce, "Forgive him. This is all good. This wasn't his fault. The fault you can still fix your relationship." And then it pretty much the only time they got to talk was in year 4 while they were. Because year 4 wasn't actually even a year. It was 3 random weekends. And on the second weekend, when they were fighting in front of the Hall of Justice with the Greek gods, they had a discussion, and Damian pretty much just rejected Bruce's pleas because
I think
it would have played a broken canon if Damian listened to him.
Pretty much, because they do fight in the main game. But that was an easy fix. Just have Damian stay with the regime to infiltrate, especially after Alfred died just before the game's events. You easily could have worked around that.
Jay, is that the last of the comics, or you're done?
Yeah, that's the last one I'm going to cover. It does go further down, but that's the last one I'm going to show. I did leave the link in the chat if anyone wants to see it for themselves. Hold on, I could have sworn.
No, you put it in the thing. I'll put it in the comment section.
Please.
There's your comic book solicitations. But anyway, let's bring it back and let's talk about the DCU, right? Because that's what we're here to talk about. The full reboot now, new cast members. I'm seeing a lot of people boycotting, saying boycott WBD.
That's not really going to solve anything. Contrary to popular belief, stuff like that doesn't really work.
Eventually, probably when they start getting the ball rolling, there might be some people who will be interested about what it is, and who will get invested. But that takes time. That takes something, some actually working films and working beginnings, and the growing pains when they get started. That's always the part what's the hardest part to do.
Right. Yeah. But from what we know that James Gunn is actually going to be doing something with the Superman film. His part is going to be a major role for that.
I just watched Angry Joe's reaction to this in the news earlier today or yesterday from one of your points of view, and he essentially ended his review by going to that James Gunn Superman script, that he said that it was something that he had started doing less than a year ago, and pretty much he allowed all the things that happened during this year to happen just so he could reach this.
Right.
Pretty much.
And now that he's got full creative control, I'm fearing the worst for DC. Like, I really am for James Gunn. James says Superman and Lois is like an apple pie and baseball. Superman and Wonder Woman will only be a temporary fling.
Pretty much.
I agree.
And just about every version, it's like that, except where Lois Lane was killed off tragically, and then Superman moves on with Wonder Woman. Outside of that one exception in some stories, Superman and Lois just works better as a couple. I'm sorry, but it does.
Yeah, and even that also depends on who is writing them in
that is also
the
true.
dynamic. It might be a good dynamic, but there's also how it works. Like, if you look at the Bendis, how Bendis has brought it during his run,
God.
or how Tom Taylor has been handling it in the Son of Kal-El stories, it kind of feels like stagnant. Like it's there because it's supposed to be there, and like there's nothing actually. It's just like kind of reinforcing it or keeping it strong. It's just there.
Right. Yeah. So we're coming up to the hour mark. Have you guys got final thoughts? Because we'll finish off on a really high note.
I'm very optimistic for the future of DC. Hopefully they can get out of this rough patch, and just good content all around. Don't boycott, don't badmouth on social media, don't be toxic, because it's really not going to solve anything.
Right. Batman, you can go next.
I agree. I'm gonna wait and see. Hopefully it's good. That's all I can say. But right now it's a lot of uncertainty, and they got a lot to win the fans back. In reality, so they got a lot of groundwork to do.
Right.
But I'm optimistic.
Definitely gonna win the fans back. Definitely. PK.
I'm gonna say that it's gonna be a long journey to see where it's gonna go. This was not the ending we wanted to have, and it also pretty much came out like a trying to be a gentle one, but kind of feels like a situation. But like I said, if they manage to build and if they manage to keep up with what they are trying to do, then maybe it can lead somewhere. But so far, I don't have the imagination to visualize what that is.
Right. Okay.
Also, Go ahead,
Go-
Taladia. Go ahead.
No, you go first.
Cheap plug. We are going to premiere later tonight on Comics Lead Dark. Hopefully, Taladia, you could be there if your schedule permits it.
If my schedule
And
permits it, yeah.
if your schedule permits it. And all in all, just have a great weekend. That's the last thing I want to say. Taladia?
Dave says, I'm sure there will be some good individual films that come out of this. But I have no interest in DC Films universe as a whole right now.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's fair. And Tevia says, sounds fun. Yep. As for my final thoughts is, of course, I'm disappointed by James Gunn, not going forward with Henry Cavill's Superman. I don't know what the new Superman is going to be about. I don't know what the film slate is going to be like. But if the movie looks good, I'll give it a second thought. I'll give it a second chance. But it doesn't look like they're going to have to win me over. They have to win me over with my trust back. That's the way I am going to go my way around it. Especially for DC films, and especially movie and video games as well. They have to win me back. Tevia says, I am also sure there are going to be some good DC movies, but honestly, after this, I'm very uncertain for the future of DC movies as a whole. Yeah, I can see that. But that being said, I'm your host, Taladia Plays. This has been League of DC show. And, thanks to the Batman, Jay Heed, of course, my co host, being a part of this panel. And also PK, thanks for coming on, and Tevia as well. You guys for coming on. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And guys, this weekend I will be having Mikey Sutton from Geekosity on the page, where we'll be talking Dreamwalker and so much more. So I've been your host, Taladia Plays. This has been the panel. I'll see you guys later.